Lisa, I'm just going to stop for once. I just want to let them know that we're still going to go ahead. That's
yes.
Yeah. But we'll just take 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, they're guiding us now. Just give us a second.
Sorry, I'm just going to...
Just addressing this other issue. Okay. It's good for you.
Are you guys ready? Sorry, just give us a second.
Okay, so just to save time while we're waiting, colleagues, what we're going to do is we're still going to carry on with the program as it is, and there are still a couple of other issues from the health departments that we need to raise in the environment. But we did want to get the digital lives matter sorted out now, so that we can move on with the work. So we're going to give it literally 10 minutes because we come under huge pressure with the time. We do need, the minister needs to be a meeting at 2. So, and it's quite critical, that one. So let's...
They're almost done. I can hear them in my ear.
Okay, no, it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
But I'm starting to count the minutes now. Okay, it's 13:21. We will stop at 1:30.
If you want, you can start. People can start asking questions.
Sure.
Is SABC ready? You are ready. Okay. Minister, would you like to maybe start by saying something, and then we'll first take SABC, and then hopefully you'll be ready then Friday. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I am aware that members of the media and the public would be interested in comments in relation to the Digital Vibe contract. I want to just start by saying that I fully acknowledge and take personal responsibility for the public outrage that has been caused by this Digital Vibe contract. I also want to state it upfront that I do not in any way undermine the voices, the views, the disappointment, the anger, and the calls for accountability that have been made by the citizens. The negative discourse has not only had impact on me, but it has also had impact on my family. But most of all, also it has tainted the teamwork of our government that is led by President in our continued efforts to fight COVID-19, the situation. It's also caused a bit of disruption, and so for all of this, I want to unreservedly apologize. It has been a very difficult matter to deal with. Nevertheless, I should also just explain that following the decision to write to the SIU and inform them of what we had uncovered as family, I received legal advice that it would be prudent for me to focus on getting that information or discussing those issues with any evidence and fully cooperate with the SIU process. Instead, therefore, of focusing largely on responding to the public. So you might therefore find that there were many queries that were not responded to, but it was not really because we wanted to dodge those queries. It was more because the focus had to be about dealing with this particular issue. It is also important that in the course of all of that, there was supposed to be a meeting in Parliament, and in this case, the legal advice that one has got has been that since the matter had raised the issue of a family name, it was important that we should be seen to be distancing ourselves from the day-to-day management of the issue. So from that point of view, I'd actually written to the Director General so that he should no longer report any of these investigations to me. And at the same time, we also made sure that the SIU is advised similarly, and therefore when the request was for matter to be discussed in Parliament, it was clear to me that the issue needed to be dealt with by the Director General, where the report would come to. Maybe if I can just go back a little bit on that, just to indicate that the issue of the investigation arose from a audit query which the Auditor General had raised with the Director General, and then of course when this matter was reported to me, I then recommended that the Director General should find a forensic audit team that comes from outside, so that you can look into all the procedural issues and also the issues of overcharging that were raised by the Auditor General. In that process, of course, the matter got leaked to the media, and then the SIU responded in public saying that they would they would be investigating. I immediately wrote a letter to say to the SIU that we will give them full support, whatever documentation they require, whatever officials of the department would be made available. That process has gone through, and we have offered full cooperation in this regard. Now, the report, the internal report, I announced around the 26th of May, and indicated that it had found that there were irregularities in the contract, and that it had also found that there was overcharging or maybe fruitless expenditure in that contract. So on that announcement, I actually indicated that steps will be taken internally for disciplinary hearings to be conducted on those who were affected, and that in the process that the immediate activities would be initiated by the Director General to recover the money. But subsequently, it was brought to my attention that the SIU felt that the work was interlinked and there was an overlap, and therefore it was important for them to take over the entire report and therefore guide the department in terms of what steps needed to be done so that there would be integration of some of the findings. That is when it became now difficult to actually start presenting the issue and making it a public document from the Department of Health, because it was still part of an ongoing investigation. Now, when during all of that period, I was then keeping the President briefed about what is happening in that regard. So I just want to indicate firstly that, as I've indicated in that press briefing, firstly, that I had no role to play in the award of the contract, and that there was no personal benefit in this regard. Now, all of these were the issues that we put on the table for the public on the particular date. Of course, subsequent to that, some new information came to light that suggested that some money was used to fix the lights in the house, and of course my wife was busy investigating that, and we were all shocked because the official who was working and assisting in the fixing of those that had been given the money, and so unknown to us had gone to work together with a former staff member who ended up paying this thing about 7,000 rand. And so that matter, we've said that we need full accountability to that, because the money had been paid and there was no issue. And I think some of you might have seen that there was a response from my wife on that particular issue. The subsequent other issue related to some money that were transferred to my son's account, and again this has made the family quite unhappy, and we're quite outraged with this, and then we have had to sit down and have a conversation on that matter to indicate that their kind of relationship that was involved was inappropriate, and that of course at the end all those funds would need to be returned, but the issue was that it was based on a personal relationship, which adults, as we have children at this age, people have relationships which we are not necessarily aware as to what extent they go. So those are some of the issues we have since reported then to the SIU in this regard, and we've also since updated the President in this regard. Because then the family name had been brought in, we then had started discussing with the President about possibilities of what would need to be done. We actually raised the issue of special leave. In that context, we actually would await President's counsel, because obviously that's an issue of the executive. If I can just say at this point, that's what I thought one can just clarify, and we would, as the Minister, say that we would condemn any actions of corruption, we would condemn any abuse of government resources. It doesn't matter whether who the individuals are. We need to take a very straightforward, firm line on that matter. Let me leave it at that for now. If there are one or two questions before we rush out. Thank you.
It's Heidi Jockas from ENCA, Minister. I just want to find out, you're speaking about special leave. Do you not believe that you should step down or step aside as the Health Minister pending these investigations and the report?
Up until we had our investigation going, that was the main investigation that was going on. There wasn't any issue with the management of the investigation, both from the department and from the SIU. But we have not discussed the issue of resignation. We have discussed with the President the issue of a special leave pending the report of the SIU. So in this case, you would recall that if we talk about issues of step aside, we're dealing here with a situation which usually you are dealing with where there have been a report that indicates particular issues that need to be answered. I think that report must be awaited, and I think from my point of view, we'll continue to cooperate with the process. And therefore, what we've discussed has been on the issue of the special leave with the President.
But do you not think that you should go on special leave pending the investigation? Considering what's been brought out in the media, do you not think that you should rather step aside?
Well, we have discussed the issue of a special leave. I actually raised that with the President, and so we will wait for those processes, and when in due course the President will give us a guide. Thank you.
Mr. Minister, have you had any engagements with the Integrity Committee, and what were those engagements?
I have spoken to the chairperson of the Integrity Commission. I have written them a letter to say that there were information we needed to collate, and therefore, once that is ready, we'll be going to present ourselves to the Integrity Commission. As things stand now, they actually confirmed that they've received the communication, and that's a normal process on the party side that we need to then present ourselves to the Integrity Commission. So we have not got a date set, but that's going to be done.
I just have one more question. Minister, I just want to find out, so some of the reports that have been coming out is that your son benefited from part of this contract, and you just said now that whoever it might be that has been involved in corruption should be brought to book. Do you have any confirmation? Can you take us into your confidence and tell us whether or not your son has benefited in whatever capacity from this contract?
Well, I will not be able to give you any details other than to say that my son was not part of the contract, the Digital Vibes contract, that the issues that related to him related to the relations that they had with some of the members who were part of Digital Vibes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have to unfortunately wrap.
It's a short one.
Okay, all right, fine.
Melissa, you said there was money to be recovered from these contracts, like Sandy from the DFA newspaper. You said there was money to be recovered from these contracts. How much are we talking about?
In the report that was given by the audit firm, they quoted because
what unfortunate timing. Let's try and go back to that briefing as we listen into Dr. Zweli Mkhize.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Minister, and thank you for those reports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's run.
Yes.
All right, Health Minister Zweli Mkhize, they're briefing the media. The issue of digital vibes coming up. Firstly, the minister apologising for what's taken place, saying he understands the outrage and the anger from the public, and he doesn't want to be seen to be challenging that in any way. Trying to clarify, in his words, what happened with the contract, saying that, again, reiterating that he did not benefit from the digital vibes contract. Of course, we've seen from that Amabungani and other media coverage that there's an implication that people connected with the health minister made over 150 million rand from a contract that was irregular, overspending on things such as interviews on the public broadcaster and more. Dr. Zweli Mkhize saying the issue of resignation has not come up. When he spoke to the president, they spoke about special leave rather than resignation. He's saying he's not going to take that special leave now. They're waiting for the outcomes of that SIU report. Speaking also about how he's moved away from some functions and left that over to his DG so that he doesn't have oversight of that investigation. When it comes to the issue of his son, saying that his son did not benefit from that digital vibe contract. However, his relationship as an adult with a member of Digital Vibes was spoken about. Any monies that the son has received apparently have to be paid back. Of course, we'll be following that story and keeping you updated after a short break.